you're already dead. The cold bites into your skin like 1,000 needles. The shivers aren't from fear, but because your body has forgotten how to warm itself without a heater. Around you, there's only wind, horses, and silent figures in leather armor. No tent, no fire, no words of comfort. Only the command, saddle your horse, go, be silent, survive. You fall to your knees, not from exhaustion, but from shock. Your brain searches for Wi-Fi, for Google Maps, for anyone to tell you it's all right. But here, normalcy is chapped lips bleeding from the wind, sleep in the saddle, a gulp of kumis when you haven't had water for 3 days. Scene. A hand grabs you by the collar, an emotionless gaze. Only the question, useful or not. You are not useful. You can't fix a bow on the run. You can't eat boiled, unsalted meat. You can't keep going when your legs feel like lead. But here, going isn't a choice. It's the law. Yasa doesn't forgive weakness. Yasa doesn't tolerate doubt. Yasa isn't a code. It's the heartbeat of the army. Imagine that's you. Your smartphone is dead. Your jacket is soaked. Your stomach screams with hunger. Ahead, there are still 50 miles across the frozen steppe. No map, no satellites, no room for error. One sneeze and you'll be left behind. Not out of cruelty, but out of calculation. Every extra mouth is a risk to everyone. Scene. The eyes of a child archer. He's 12. He doesn't shiver. He waits for the signal. Here's the paradox. The Mongol army wasn't an army in our sense. It was a machine, perfectly tuned, without noise, without sentiment. Every warrior was a cog. Every arban, a squad of 10, was a cell. If a cog squeaked, it was removed. Would you have survived? No. Not because you're weak, but because you weren't born in the saddle. You didn't drink mare's milk with your first tooth. You didn't learn to shoot a bow until your fingers cramped. Your body is a product of convenience. Their bodies are a product of survival. And that's where it gets interesting. Survival here isn't a skill, it's a state of being. Like breathing, like a pulse, death. You hold the reins with trembling hands. Your fingers are numb. The knot isn't yours. The horse is gone. Just galloped away. You scream in broken English, "I didn't know!" No one listens. Their gazes are like stone. One warrior approaches, lays a hand on your shoulder. You think he'll help. He shoves you to your knees into the frozen mud. You hear a word, burai, weak. And that's it. A minute later, your body is in a ditch. The horse is already with someone else. The law. It doesn't forgive. Yasa. Not a code, not regulations. A verdict. Created in 1206, after the unification of the tribes, it blurred the line between rule and instinct. Sitting with your back to the wind isn't politeness, it's survival. Looking down at an elder isn't submission, it's discipline. Being silent when not asked isn't cowardice, it's order. Complaining about fatigue? Desertion. Trembling eyes at the sight of a banner? Execution. The Persian chronicler Juvayni wrote, "One warrior was cut down for a glance, not for a word, not for an action, for doubt in his eyes. An army that moves 400% faster than the enemy tolerates no hesitation. Not for a moment. Everyone is a cog. An error means death for all. But the commander isn't safe either. If a newcomer errs, the entire arban is held responsible. 10 people, including you. Imagine, 10 years without mistakes. And your subordinate trembles, loses a horse. And now your head rolls alongside his, because in Yasa, there's no "I'm not to blame." There's only "we failed." The secret history of the Mongols recounts Genghis Khan ordered the execution of an entire eret, 100 warriors, because one stole milk from a captive. The commander didn't report it, therefore an accomplice. therefore a corpse. This isn't cruelty, it's logic. If you don't control your own, you're not a leader, you're a threat. Thus, the law became flesh. But to survive doesn't just mean being silent. To survive means not freezing, not dying of hunger, not collapsing from exhaustion. No tents, no kitchens, no breaks. You sleep in the saddle. You drink horse blood. You march 60 miles a day, without a groan. A groan is a signal. A signal is weakness. Weakness is death. Imagine that's you. Your fingers don't know knots. Your stomach rejects raw meat. Your eyes search for salvation. And all around you is only the steppe, and a law that executes for a thought. Would you have survived? Death. First night. You lie on the ground, curled into a ball. The wind from the gobi bites into your down jacket like a knife. Your super warm city down jacket, designed for 23 degrees Fahrenheit, is now a wet rag. Your teeth chatter, not from cold, but from terror. Tears roll, but don't fall. They freeze on your cheeks, leaving salty cracks. And beside you are warriors. No fire. Smoke is a signal. No tent. Shelter is weakness. They simply lean their foreheads against their horses' necks and fall asleep. Under the snow. In the wind. Without a groan. Would you have survived? No. Your brain demands silence. A mattress, 7 hours of sleep. Their brains conserve every impulse. They sleep in the saddle. They recover while moving. After 36 hours without normal sleep, you start seeing shadows. They see only the goal. Scene. A warrior's hand drinks blood from a horse's vein. Drops fall into a leather bag of kumis, fermented mare's milk, proteins, fats, probiotics, food and medicine. The Mongols didn't use supply trains. They didn't build camps. The army moved like a pack of wolves, autonomous, invisible. Sleep was taken in shifts. While you slept, your comrades led your horse. Food was horse blood mixed with kumis. Water was from snow, rivers, or sweat absorbed by felt pads under the saddle. On their belt, only the essentials: bow, knife, kettle. Everything light. Everything multifunctional. Because speed is life, and a camp is death. But the most terrifying thing wasn't hunger, not cold. It was the belt. Scene: a leather belt around the waist, tightly fastened. Fingers tremble, but don't loosen it. Everyone had a death belt. Not an ornament, not a weapon. When the stomach cramped, they tightened it even more, to dull the pain, to trick hunger. But if the belt broke, the warrior was too weak, too close to the edge. He would be executed, not out of cruelty, out of calculation. A weak man would slow down the unit, attract the enemy, cause panic. Even hunger here was controlled, even pain was forbidden. Imagine, that's you. Your stomach screams after 4 hours, without food. Your hands tremble from caffeine withdrawal. And around you, there are 60 miles of frozen emptiness, and a neighbor who watches. Are you useful or not? And that's where it gets interesting. Survival alone is impossible. The army wasn't held together by brotherhood, not by honor, but by fear. Fear of one's own. Because in a system where 10 are executed for one's mistake, trust is a luxury. Silence is suspicion. A glance is an accusation. And compassion? Compassion is a crime. Would you have survived? Death. You are silent. Is it because you are not a traitor? You see your neighbor hide a piece of horse meat in the lining of his robe. Not greed. Desperation. His child died 3 days ago. You heard him crying in the saddle, swallowing snow. And yet, food is communal. The rule is iron. You remain silent. Not out of fear, out of pity, out of humanity. At dawn, you are brought before the formation. Not him. You. The Decurion looks into your eyes. He doesn't shout. He's not angry. He simply asks, "Did you know?" You nod. Honesty is your reflex, your anchor in a world without rules. A mistake. An hour later, you are on your knees in the mud. He is beside you. Both await the blade. The last thing you hear: you didn't kill him. You allowed him to kill us all. Death. The system didn't wait for heroes. It demanded eyes. Every arban, 10 pairs of eyes, 10 ears, 10 denunciations a day. To be silent meant signing a death warrant for everyone. To inform meant to survive, and to receive a horse, and kumis, and the right to breathe another day. The Persian chronicler Rashid al-Din wrote, "There are no secrets in the Mongol army, not because everyone chattered, but because silence was punished more severely than theft. The fear of a comrade was stronger than the fear of the enemy." And it worked. Would you have survived? Imagine that's you. Your colleague steals from the common fund. Not much. For his mother's medicine. You see it. You remain silent. In your world, that's compassion. In their world, it's a crime. And here's the paradox. To save the lives of 10, you must kill one. But not yourself. The system must find him itself. And for that, you must speak up. Compassion is a crime. Silence is betrayal. And do you still consider yourself a good person? In this army, there was no I. There was us, or death. And if you didn't watch your own, you were already a corpse. Even if your heart beat. Even if your fingers held a bow. This wasn't morality. It was mathematics. One weak link and the chain breaks. Therefore, every warrior was both a brother and a supervisor. And in this lies strength. Not in horses, not in bows, in eyes that never looked away. But even this eye grew tired. Even this fear had its limits. If the army stopped, the system would collapse. Therefore, it never stopped. Never. March, ambush, battle, march. Without sleep, without rest, without the right to think. Because the enemy didn't sleep. And you're already dead. Third day without sleep. You walk, you stumble. You fall to your knees and immediately jump up because horses are neighing behind you. Drums beat. 1, 2, 1, 2. Not music. A command. Horns wail. And 100,000 hooves change direction like a single beast. You want to scream, "I can't." But your lips don't move. Your tongue is stone. Your eyes see the steppe, but your brain conjures faces from a past life. Mom, coffee, a pillow. Hallucinations. You know it's not a dream. It's your body screaming, "Enough." But stopping is death, and movement is the only chance. Marches, ambushes, battles. Marches, ambushes, battles. The Mongol army didn't rest, didn't wait, didn't think. It worked. In the morning, reconnaissance on light horses. In the day, a 60-mile march through snow, without roads, without maps. In the evening, an ambush in a ravine where the enemy didn't expect it. At night, another 25 miles. And then it all started again. Europeans built camps, cooked porridge, slept in tents. Mongols, they vanished, like fog, like a nightmare. Chronicles frantically state, they arrive, and they are already gone. This isn't magic. It's a machine, without pauses, without failures. 60 miles, 15 for the enemy, 5 times faster. Imagine that's you. Your fitness tracker shows you've exceeded your limit. But a Mongol covers 60 miles a day, fueled by horse blood and kumis. No GPS, no energy drinks, navigating by stars, wind, and the flight of a falcon. Modern special forces with helicopters couldn't maintain such a rhythm. But a boy with a bow could, because his body isn't urban. It's been forged in the saddle since he was 5. His mitochondria burn like embers. His heart pumps blood, even when dehydrated. His brain sleeps while moving, like a dolphin. You? You collapse after 8 hours without coffee. Marches, ambushes, battles. Marches, ambushes, battles. This isn't war, it's an assembly line. Every warrior is part of the mechanism. Tired? Go. Hungry? Go. Dying? Still go. Because the system doesn't stop for one person. It can't. If it stops, it will be killed. The enemy doesn't sleep. And you're already dead. Death. You fall to your knees. Your head spins. Your temples throb with emptiness. Your stomach cramps. Not just hunger. Metabolic collapse. 48 hours without food. The steppe around you, scorched, icy, without a single shelter. In your ears, only the thud of hooves. Rhythm. Command. Life. A boy rides past. About 10 years old, bareback, without fatigue. In his teeth, a piece of raw horse meat. Blood trickles down his chin. He chews. Calmly. As if it's not meat, but fuel for an engine. You watch. You envy. You fear. Your glucose level is below 3. Your brain shuts down everything unnecessary. Empathy, memory, even pain. It conserves energy, so you don't die. But that boy's brain activates everything. He sees the wind's trace, hears the enemy's breath over the hill, senses when a horse will tire. Because from the age of 5, his body was taught to survive. Not to live, to survive. In The Secret History of the Mongols, it is said, children played hunting, not with dolls, with knives. Not for cruelty, for precision, for survival. Your body isn't weak. It's just different. It grew up in warmth, in abundance, in safety. You don't have brown adipose tissue that burns at 22 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit. You don't have a metabolism that switches to ketosis in 2 hours. You have glucose dependence, like a child with a smartphone. But a Mongol has kumis, blood, fat, everything the steppe provides. His body doesn't ask, is it tasty? It asks, will it last? Until dawn. Archaeology says the average lifespan was 35 years. Only those whose bodies didn't scream from the cold survived, whose nerves didn't snap from hunger, whose hearts beat even in a faint. You spend less than 5% of your time outdoors. Your lungs don't know dust. Your feet don't know saddles. Your hands don't know bows. Imagine special forces, thermal underwear, energy bars, GPS, medevac in 30 minutes. They break down on a 30-mile forced march. But the Mongols did 60, 3 times a week, without water, without sleep, with a death belt around their waist, pulled tight until their guts stopped screaming. If the belt broke, you were executed, not for weakness, for risk. Yasa didn't forgive mistakes. Even losing a horse meant death. We think we've become stronger, but in 200 years, endurance has dropped by 30%. Comfort isn't progress. Comfort is a regression. You're not weak. You're just not meant for this world. Imagine, that's you. Your stomach cramps. Your fingers tremble. And next to you, a boy eats blood and looks into the distance. Would you have survived? Death. You stand in formation. Before you is a prisoner. His hands are tied with a rope made of horsehair. His face is bruised. His lips cracked. His eyes. A plea. Not a scream. Not a curse. Just a plea. One warrior takes a step, draws a knife, cuts his throat. Without pause, without a breath. Blood splashes onto the frozen ground. Warm, crimson, smelling of iron and fear. You look away. A lump in your throat, a spasm in your stomach. You feel nausea, pity, humanity. The command, look. You raise your eyes, and you realize your horror is betrayal. Your pity is a death sentence. Here, compassion doesn't adorn, it kills. Scene, blood on the sand. Not a single blinking eye in the formation. Psychological steel wasn't born naturally. It was forged. From the age of 5, a boy was given a knife and a wolf, not for killing, for habituation. Tears, with a whip, trembling, with hunger, regret, with death. War was not an exception. It was routine, like cleaning a bow, like tightening a belt. Killing, not a sin, not a feat, a duty. Emotions interfered. They interfered with shooting. They interfered with silence. They interfered with survival. And they were burned out, like pus from a wound. Persian Chronicles: a commander who spared an old man was hanged on the banner of his arban. Not for pity, for risk. Pity is a disease. In the steppe, it was cured with a blade. You think, but he was human. That's precisely why he was killed. Human means he can return, can take revenge, can kill your brother. And a brother isn't just blood. He's part of your arban, your responsibility, your life. In Yasa, there's no "he's not my enemy." There's "he's alive, we're dead." Archaeology confirms, in Mongol graves, traces of battles, fractures, arrows in ribs. But no graves with prisoners, no spared, no compromises. The system worked flawlessly, because it didn't allow itself weakness, not even in thought. Imagine, that's you. You see a child in the enemy camp. He cries. You feel pity. And at that moment, your squad dies in an ambush. Because you were distracted for a moment. Would you have survived? Death. But even such discipline would be useless if the army depended on roads, camps, and supply trains. Europeans dragged 500 wagons behind them and lost. Mongols carried only a bow, a knife, and a belt. The steppe fed them. Rivers watered them. The wind hid them. They didn't march. They vanished, and appeared where they weren't expected. In 3 days, without a trace, without a sound, without room for error, logistics became a weapon. And you? You're still looking for Wi-Fi. You've been walking for 3 days now. You have no water, no food, only a bow and quiver on your back, and a horse whose breath clouds the frosty air. You don't understand how the others keep going. No one carries provisions, no wagons, no cooks, no camp with fires. And yet, every evening, the warriors eat, drink, sleep. You ask where the food comes from. They answer with one word: the steppe. You look around. Before you is emptiness. And in that emptiness is everything needed for war: roots, birds, wild horses, underground springs known only by the stars, and the behavior of birds. You smell kumis, sour, pungent. And you realize, for them, the steppe isn't a desert. It's a warehouse. It's a fortress. It's home. The Mongol army had no supply trains. This was its main weapon. Each warrior carried no more than 33 pounds, a bow, arrows, a knife, a kettle. Everything else was acquired on site. Hunting, gathering herbs, mare's milk, horse blood, without killing, just a cut in the vein, and drops into a leather bag. Yasa scouts rode 100 miles ahead, reading the land like a book. They found water by the flight of cranes, ambushes by wolf tracks. The army moved in small groups, 10, 100 men. No dust, no noise. At night, a march. In the day, a pit covered with felt and silence. The steppe fed, the steppe hid, the steppe killed for them. Seen, glowing embers, covered with earth, no smoke, no light. City walls didn't yet know that war had begun. Messengers hadn't left. But the Mongols were already at the gates. Not because they rode faster, but because they left no trace, no trails, only scattered footprints, like from nomads. No corpses. The dead were burned or buried under hooves. Only silence, and a sudden hail of arrows from 300 yards away. Archers at a gallop, horse, 40 miles an hour, hand, 100 shots a minute. The garrison didn't have time to draw their swords. The gates fell when the guard was still blinking. The logistics of terror. That's when the enemy doesn't see you, doesn't hear you, doesn't believe you, and then is already dead. Imagine that's you. Your GPS is silent. Your stomach is empty. And around you, only wind and shadows that move faster than thought. Would you have survived? Death. This wasn't an army. It was an ecosystem, self-sufficient, without a trace, without mercy. Every belt, every knot, every sip of kumis, part of a mechanism that devoured distances and spat out ashes. And now, when you see everything, the body, the mind, the law, the steppe, one question remains, not historical, personal. What would become of you? A person from a world of Wi-Fi, coffee, and the right to a day off in a world where only those who became invisible survive. All of this, the Yasa, the fear, the death belt, kumis instead of water, was not a set of cruel rules. It was a vicious cycle. The law created order. Order allowed movement without a camp. A camp meant death. And movement was life. Movement forged the body. The body suppressed emotions. Emotions were weakness. Weakness was killed by fear. Fear bred denunciation. Denunciation bred loyalty. Loyalty gave speed. Speed meant victory. Victory meant food. Food meant another day in the saddle. And so the cycle went. Without pauses. Without failures. Without you. Scene. Genghis Khan sleeps on felt under the stars. Not a hero. Not a god. Just a warrior who cannot afford to forget the smell of war. Would you have survived? No. Not because you're weak, but because your brain doesn't know how to turn off the eye. It demands meaning, justice, rest. But in the steppe, meaning is in movement. Justice is in the blade. Rest is in the grave. On the third day, your biorhythms break down. Your brain demands silence. But instead, there are drums. Your stomach demands food. But instead, there's blood. Your heart demands compassion. But instead, there's the gaze of a boy who eats raw meat and won't blink at your death. Your muscles begin to break down. Myoglobin, a poison. Your kidneys fail. Cortisol burns your nerves. You see shadows. You hear voices. And yet the system doesn't wait. It doesn't ask, "Are you tired?" It simply eliminates. Like a broken arrow. Like a lame horse. Like the thought of mercy. But here's the paradox. Civilization saved you. It gave you the right to tremble, the right to cry, the right to make mistakes, the right not to know how to tie a knot on a horse's harness. And yes, you became weaker. But not weaker by nature. Weaker by choice. And that's not a disgrace. It's the price of poetry, music, science, love that doesn't serve war. The Mongols conquered. We create. They built an empire out of fear. We, out of questions. What if? What if there's another way? What if we show mercy? This weakness, it's not a flaw. It's a prerequisite for everything that makes us human. Without the right to error, there are no discoveries. Without the right to pain, there is no art. Without the right to rest, there is no dream. Scene, your hands, in gloves, on a keyboard. Next to you, a cup of coffee. Outside the window, rain, comfort, safety, weakness, for which you pay with comfort. So tell me honestly, would you choose to survive in the steppe without sleep, without mercy, without the right to the human within you? Or to stay here, vulnerable, soft, alive? The choice isn't in strength. The choice is in what you consider life. And perhaps that is the essence of civilization. Would you have survived? Death.